Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I'm so happy you stopped by. Today I wanted to do a little video for you guys about how to pick the right foundation for you. I've been getting a lot of questions on the channel about shade selection and skin type, things like that. What kind of primer to use with a certain foundation, and I just thought it'd be really nice to do a video for you all because foundation is something that is really hard to pick out, and I understand because I myself, before I knew a lot about makeup, really did have a hard time picking out and selecting a foundation shade. So the first thing you want to figure out when you're selecting any type of foundation is what kind of skin you have. Now, this is usually pretty easy to figure out. If you're oily skin, your face is probably an oil slick, just like mine. If you're dry skinned, it's probably constantly, you have dry patches, things like this. But some things you want to ask yourself if you're not sure: do you get oily? So for me, that would be a yes, move on. If it's no, then you're probably dry skinned and by default if you don't get oily at all. Then the next thing you want to ask yourself is, if you get oily, where do you get oily, how often, things like that. Some people only get oil in their T-zone, which probably means they're combination skin, drier on the cheeks, oilier in the T-zone. I can sometimes translate to a combination skin type person during this time of year when it is a little chillier outside. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Does your skin type ever change? If so, you might want to change your foundation. And then, are you dry? Do you have a lot of dry patches? Do you get any oil at all in your T-zone? Things like that to find out. Do you have any acne? Do you have acne that you want to cover up? Do you have acne that you get a lot of oil from? These are all things you want to figure out before selecting a foundation, because figuring out what type of skin you have is definitely going to affect what kind of foundation you need or want. Because obviously an oily skin person wants to use a more mattifying or full coverage foundation to keep that oil down, and then a drier skin person may want to use something like a luminous foundation or a type of silky foundation. The next thing you're going to want to think about is, what type of coverage do you want from your foundation? There's basically three levels of coverage when it comes to foundation or makeup that you're putting on your face. You have full coverage. Things that are full coverage in the foundation realm are things like Estee Lauder Double Wear. When you're thinking of high-end, very full coverage foundation, it's going to cover up acne, scarring, things like that. And then of course, where drugstore is concerned, a good one for a fuller coverage foundation would be the CoverGirl Outlast Stay Fabulous 3-in-1, as well as the Rimmel Stay Matte is very full coverage and also very comparable to Estee Lauder Double Wear. So as far as full coverage is concerned, something that is really going to hide those acne scars, things like that, if that's the type of coverage you're looking for, those are the type of foundations I would recommend. And then if you're thinking about medium coverage, something that is just going to kind of make your face all look nice and blend it together, hide any kind of redness, but it's not going to cover up every pimple you have or every spot of redness that you have, but it's going to give you just enough coverage to look pulled together. When we're talking about those type of foundations, I would think of probably things like the Revlon Photo Ready, which is a buildable light to medium coverage type of foundation, and then the L'Oreal True Match Lumi is another buildable light coverage to medium coverage foundation, as well as the Wet n Wild Coverall, that also is a medium foundation. And then of course light coverage. When I think of light coverage, I'm going to come back to this the Revlon Photo Ready. This can be a very light coverage foundation, and medium coverage is something that's hard to find without having something that needs to be layered. But this is light coverage on its own with one layer. And then another thing that's not really a foundation but that I find is great for light coverage is a BB cream. Things like the L'Oreal Magic BB cream, maybe tinted moisturizers, things like that, or powder foundations are going to be something that usually gives a lighter type of coverage. Lighter type of coverage is usually good for people who are just starting out wearing makeup, or people who don't really have a lot to cover up and want something that feels nice and fresh on your face. So I would really think of BB creams when it comes to lighter coverage or foundations that are buildable. And then the main thing that you want to think about when you're going to pick out a foundation other than your skin type is, what kind of undertone do you have? And the undertone is basically the tone of what's underneath your skin. You can have a yellow undertone, a pink undertone, or a neutral undertone. And some easy ways to figure that out are, there's the vein test. I'm sure you guys have all heard of this. You can pull out your wrist and look at your veins there, or the veins in the front of your hand, what color are they? Cooler undertoned people have blue purple type colored veins, and then people with a warmer undertone tend to have a greenish type of vein. So that's also something good to think about. That's one of the best ways I feel to figure out what type of undertone you are if you're really not sure. Another way is what type of jewelry looks good on you. Do you look good in gold jewelry? Then you might be a warm undertone. Do you look really nice with silver jewelry on? Then you're probably a cooler undertone. And then once again, I'll bring back the neutral thought. People with neutral undertones, that could mean that you're the type of person that does not really have a preference. And then do you look good in beige or browns? People that have warm undertones, you look really nice in beige and brown. People with cooler undertones, you look nice in pure whites, nice cool blues, things like that that look good on you. That will also help you decide your undertones. So I hope that was helpful. Another thing I want to bring up are some foundation tips. And the first tip I can give to you, do not use the same foundation all year round. I don't care if you never touch the outdoors, your skin shade will change moderately when it gets warmer out. I always change my shade of foundation in the summer, and sometimes your skin undertone can moderately change with that tan that you're catching. So here's my summer shade. This is 855 Soft Honey CoverGirl 3-in-1 Outlast Stay Fabulous. And then same foundation, 842 Medium Beige. Now that's quite a drastic difference, but sometimes you're going to have to make a drastic difference just because of your undertone. The reason I made this much of a difference in my shades was not really because I tanned so much in the summer. It was mainly because my skin undertone was altered somewhat through the summer's sunlight and things like that. And it also depends on how many shades your foundation, the type of foundation you're using sells. CoverGirl, the shades in between this tended to lean more towards a pinky tone, and as I mentioned, I'm warm neutral undertones. And then the next thing I want to point out is if you're gonna buy a foundation from the drugstore, the best thing I can tell you to do, when we go to high-end places like Sephora and Ulta, they usually have tester foundations, foundations that you can open and test on your hand or things like that to see if it matches your skin tone. At drugstores, most of the time there is not a tester foundation. And something I think a lot of people don't think about and maybe even don't know about when they're going to buy foundation from the drugstore is go to a place that has a great return policy. Walgreens has a fabulous return policy. You can pick up 3 or 4 foundation shades there, take them home, try them, pick the one that's right for you, and then take the other 2 back because they have a very forgiving return policy when it comes to cosmetics. They will take back partially used cosmetics. So keep that in mind when you're going to buy a drugstore foundation because obviously you don't want to spend a lot of money trying to find the right shade. Another way I want to tell you that's a great way to find the right shade, whether you're buying drugstore or high-end foundation, match it to your neck. When I go to a store and pick out foundation, I don't hold the bottle here and see if it matches what I have on. I hold it here. And then if I can test it, I test it in the store right here. Because you want that all to blend right in together. You want this to be a unit, not a separate thing. We've all seen that lady that's got the foundation that's dark, dark, dark on her face and then a pale neck. You don't want to look like that. It's not a cute look. So that's one great tip that I can give you guys. And then another thought is I would steer away from getting matched. Because a lot of times people that match you are going to match your foundation to your face. So I would definitely steer away from getting matched unless you're going to go in completely barefaced. Going in barefaced can help you when you're getting matched, but I think it's a lot easier to pick out a foundation for your own skin tone and skin type because you know what you like and what your color is most of the time. It may take a while to figure it out, but once you do, you know it. And then another thing I want to point out, a lot of people forget about this. If you have a great foundation that you have at home already that is your color, take that foundation with you when you're going to go pick up another one. A foundation that really matches me that I like to come back to is this CoverGirl 842 for this time of year. And if I'm going to buy another foundation, I'll take this with me, or I'll maybe swatch it on my hand or a Kleenex, take it to the store and try to match it best as I can with another foundation. It really seems to help when I do that, and if I'm not going to be buying several of them and taking them home and testing them, I think that's one great way to do it. So I hope this video helped you all, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I hope I covered everything in here though. Foundation is something that is really hard to figure out. It took me quite a while to figure out how to match myself, but I think once you get these tips under your belt, it really does help you quite a bit. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.